Welcome to Growth Layer, an interview series that pulls back the curtain on what it takes to build in health and family. And today's guest is Ellen DaSilva, founder and CEO of Summer Health, a startup reimagining pediatric and family care. And before founding Summer Health, Ellen helped build him and hers during its early growth years. She's a mom of 3 and a multiple-time operator. So Ellen, welcome, and I'm really excited to have a fantastic conversation.
Thanks, Destiny. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's go ahead and maybe we can start off with the founding story and the origin of what birthed Summer Health.
Summer Health's story is really my story. I'm sure for any parent out there who's listening, you too have found yourself in this situation. I was 7 months pregnant with my second. My oldest was 18 months old. And he took a tumble off the bed, it's the depths of COVID, and bumped his head and immediately was showing some signs that made us a little concerned. And it was a Friday night. So, of course, we called our pediatrician who didn't answer. And one thing led to another, and we found ourselves at the emergency room. $2,500 later and 5 hours later, we were sent home saying, he's fine. And it's one of these like completely avoidable moments. And these happen all the time in the healthcare system. As a parent, I know that I have tons of questions about my kids' health, making sure that I'm raising them in the best way. Health systems feel this way. Payers feel this way. They're paying 123 emergency room visits for every 100 kids under the age of 5. I mean, it's insane. So the numbers really speak for themselves. And as I started to discover that this problem was not only my own, but was shared by the parents of all 75 million kids in this country, I knew that there was a big problem that we needed to solve.
Yeah, I love that. And I can see how that is really scary. And also just, you can't help but feel like you wasted time, even though that was, we don't want to look back and have regrets and say, did I do everything? But at the same time, he's fine. And then you can't help feel like that time and the resources were just wasted.
Yeah. It's time, it's resources. It's also feeling a bit helpless. I mean, I know you have 2 young kids, that feeling of, I don't know if I'm giving my child the best medical attention. Like, do they need to go to the emergency room? Do they need nothing? My daughter has eczema on the back of her legs. Does she need a cream? Is the cream working? The other thing that I spend a lot of time thinking about is what I call Instagram parenting. So we're all exposed to a lot more opinions about parenting than our own parents were. Our own parents basically got advice from their parents. They got advice from the village that surrounded them, which maybe was the community they lived in, siblings who had kids, but that was kind of it. And now we're exposed to this litany of information, much of which is not true, much of which causes what I would think of as really kind of has like negative behavioral side effects for parents. And so at Summer Health, we really want to be the single source of truth for what is good for your kids' health.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's so much content on Instagram. Some content are great. I have my paid apps. I've gotten my parenting support. And it is true that there is information overload, and it's hard to really discern, in the moment, what's actually supportive and what's credible. So I guess, from there, so you have that experience, you obviously have the operator experience, you have experience with finding companies to invest in as an investor as well. So what came next? Because that's a pretty big leap. And, stepping into that founder identity, first-time founder, like what came next and what did you have to move through, if anything, to become a founder?
Oh gosh, well, in a way, I have always loved creating something out of nothing. There's a magic in the art of dreaming something and then seeing it come to fruition, come to life. This is a little bit of a cheeky cop-out, but I love to cook. Like, cooking is kind of my happy place. And part of the beauty of cooking is you start with a series of raw ingredients on the table, and you can bring something to life that is really delicious and beautiful and cohesive amongst all those raw ingredients. And I actually view company building in a rather similar way. What came next? I mean, I had this idea, I had this issue that I experienced, And actually, I was still at Hims and Hers, and I was very passionate. I still am very passionate, a big believer in what they're doing. But what tends to happen is you have the spark of an idea, you keep thinking about it, and eventually it kind of takes over your whole brain. And I
Yes.
found that I would be on the playground talking to the other parents about how they get health, or sort of like urgent health for care for their kids. And then I found myself on the playground talking to parents about, well, what else do you need help with? What else do you feel like you're not getting support in?
Mhm.
It became really obvious to me that there was a gap in the market. There
Okay.
are so many telehealth companies trying so many different things, and really nobody is focused on kids.
And so it became clear there was a gap.
Became clear there was a
Um,
gap. It became clear
and
that, oh, sorry.
oh, I was just gonna say, and then how did you get clear on the model and the immediacy with filling that gap?
I tested a bunch of things. I mean, I did a lot of user research. I bet I spoke to 200 parents and probably like 50 pediatricians to
Yeah.
understand if there was a there. I spoke to lawyers, I spoke to, investors, like I spoke to lots of different people. And actually, in a very hacky way, I met my co-founder who's amazing. And in a very hacky way, he and I put together a prototype of the product in a weekend or something. I don't know, a couple days.
Wow.
I literally bought a phone number, I think on Google Voice. I had a friend who's a pediatrician. I said, please, like, be on the other side of this. And I posted on Instagram, if you have any questions about your kid's health, whether it be urgent or developmental, please send a text to this number and a pediatrician will respond. There's no guaranteed response time. I think we were limited to New York and New Jersey because that's where this pediatrician was licensed to practice medicine. There was no sign up. It was literally just like a phone number. And
Wow.
we got 400 people to use it in like 2 weeks. And we thought, okay, we're on to something. Like, some people want this. Granted, they didn't have to pay. So, it's like a
Sure, of course.
different beast. But we felt like we were on to something. So then it was time to build. Raised a little bit of pre-seed capital, set to work, built it, got a bunch of people to sign up. And then we were off to the races.
Okay, so now you have this text-based model. I guess maybe for those listening who may not be familiar with Summer Health, tell us a little bit more about the model that you landed on. And then I want to talk about how ChatGPT and the world of LLM and AI has potentially influenced this immediate response type model.
I think about this all the time. So I'm
Yes.
happy to chat. So we landed on the text-based model mostly because I have built non-traditional healthcare businesses before, and I've spent a lot of time steeped in healthcare. And what I discovered was that, like, straight up traditional synchronous healthcare is not a very high margin business. I mean, I don't want to call anyone out here, but look at the Teladoc stock price over the last couple of years. It's not been great. So historically, they just haven't been great venture scale businesses. And in talking to parents, it's not really what they want. It's not really how they want to get in touch
Right.
with the medical system. It's challenging. And when you're cradling a 6-month-old baby who has a fever or a rash, and it's 9 o'clock at night, the literal last thing you want to do is get your computer and get on Zoom. So
Exactly.
parents loved that kind of colloquial aspect of what we do. And I guess that's ultimately how we landed on the model, was we just saw that was how people wanted to
Yeah.
interact with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 15-minute guarantee, here's how it came into place. I think at the onset, we said that we were going to be able to do quick response. I don't even know if we said 15 minutes, but we said like quick responses basically in some states. And then in some states, it was like a 24-hour turnaround. And very quickly, the customer base got upset. They're like, well, why in these states is it faster than these states? And why are you guaranteeing it in this location on the other? And I thought, okay, let's just go for broke. Like, parents really want fast answers. And the alternative, our biggest competitor is not another telehealth platform. Our biggest competitor is Google or ChatGPT. At the time, it was Google.
Yes.
So I thought, that's instantaneous, and parents are going to start self-diagnosing what's going on, and they really want to talk to a physician. So we felt like there was real value in that 15-minute guaranteed response time, and parents do really love it. So I'm very proud that our average response time on the platform is 2.8 minutes, and you basically feel like you're getting instantaneous care. And
Yeah.
that's a testament to our operations team. It's just truly second to none.
Yeah. Wow. And so what is the stickiness rate that you're finding? Because, what I can see with care is that it's also based on how frequently we may need it. And we we hope we don't need it all the time. And
Yep.
so I'm curious what the customer stickiness rate is and what you have found maybe unexpectedly or you expected, during this process as you're growing and acquiring new members.
So as we talk about the marketing side of this, which I know is
Yeah.
kind of the meat of the conversation, and I'm obviously excited to dive in on that, we have a stickier customer base than I think you would probably expect because parents have lots of urgent needs about their kids, especially in the 0 to 2 age range. I mean, things come
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I think the average utilization is maybe like 5 to 6 times a year, which is pretty high.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but candidly, it's not as high as we want it to be because we
Mhm.
want to be a very frequently used product. We want
Yeah.
to be there in those moments of frustration. Is it, what's going on with my kid? And we want to be there to support
Yeah.
families through all of that. And so, as we think about evolving the platform, which I know we'll discuss, we think a lot about customer stickiness and what gets them to use the platform with enough frequency that we become a staple in their parenting stack.
So let's talk about that because I think this all ties to growth, whether it's product led growth or marketing led growth. But now, in this world of AI, ChatGPT, instant answers,
Yep.
how are you navigating that? Because now you're competing against Google and ChatGPT, among other tools. Yeah.
So ChatGPT launched a year after we launched Summer Health. And
Okay.
I kind of remember at the time it launched looking at my team and thinking, oh my God, if I could build a parenting product, this is it. Like, this is
Yeah.
just perfect. It has unlimited answers. It has unlimited patience. It responds instantly. But there are a couple of things that ChatGPT does not do. And actually, I strongly encourage families to go use parents to use ChatGPT. Sam Altman himself, sort of infamously 6 months ago, tweeted, "I don't know how anybody parented before ChatGPT. It is my most used tool. It is a
Mhm.
great tool for parents." And we
Mhm.
certainly encourage that. What ChatGPT can't do, ChatGPT cannot formally diagnose illnesses.
Yeah.
ChatGPT cannot write you a doctor's note to get
Yeah.
your kid to go back to school. ChatGPT cannot write prescriptions
Yeah.
for you. And ultimately, ChatGPT is not a licensed physician. And so anything short of that, it can be great at. But a lot of times, especially when it comes to kids' health, we don't want to chance it with
Yeah.
non-clinical individual.
Exactly.
So we've actually leaned pretty heavily into our resources can offer, which is that sort of clinical
Yeah.
nature, the diagnosis, the being able to write a prescription. All of that is really important to the cohesion of what we do. And it's what keeps families coming back to Summer Health. It's also what gets them to sign up.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I can see it being a lower funnel where they start with ChatGPT, do a lot of research, get led to Summer Health, and I can see that conversion rate increasing if they're going through these channels.
Something I wonder, but I don't have an answer to this, is whether or not the existence of ChatGPT makes parents more aware of their kids' health. And
Mhm.
therefore, it's a bit of a TAM expander for what we're
Yeah.
doing or not. I mean, I can imagine that 50 years ago, before Google, before ChatGPT, before the internet, my dad actually tells a very funny story. I guess I was probably like a week or two old and I had a rash. And my parents called the pediatrician in the middle of the night on a Saturday night. Pediatrician called back a few hours later, and my dad described the rash, and the pediatrician said, "Well, is she upset?"
Yeah.
And my dad said no, and he goes, "Okay." And the pediatrician says, "Okay, well, it seems like the rash is bothering you more than your daughter, so you're fine." And nowadays you could take a picture of the rash and you could upload it to the internet, and it kind of makes you nervous. Oh, it could be this, but it could be that. And I'm not a doctor, and so I actually, in a way, I think it expands the total number of people who are thinking about their kids' health because they're curious about it and they have resources at their disposal to get more curious.
Yeah, no, that's true. It can cut at it from both sides, right? You can get information overload and self misdiagnosis, and or it can get you more educated and then lead you to qualified resources like Summer Health. So I can kind of see it from both sides. Being as a parent, I'm certainly doing a lot of research and just getting a lot of different angles being thrown at me. So I guess in the light of this new world, tell us what's next in terms of growth and what you're building, because there's been a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, there has been a ton going on behind the scenes. So, as you described, and we had focused in the early days of the company on kids ages 0 to 5 because we saw that that's where the most urgent needs arose, and we see thousands and thousands of patients every month who need care from us. But earlier this year, we acquired a company called Caraway, which does more adolescent care.
Mm.
And as we started to dive in, we discovered that there was a lot more that the Summer Health platform can do for families. The family who comes into us with a 2-year-old may also have a 5-year-old and a 12-year-old. And
Yeah.
we are not doing a great job of treating those older kids now. We also found that families were coming in for more older kid things, and we were just not exactly equipped. We weren't really set up to do it. We were more set up to do urgent care. So now, I mean, what comes next? I think of Summer Health as being the catch-all, the place on the internet for your kids' health and wellness. That is
Mm.
ultimately what we are building and what we want to be. And so in doing that, we are starting to add more clinical pathways for slightly older kids around things like acne, allergies, asthma, to help diagnose, treat, and take care of these conditions that kids have. Really, nothing is off the table at this point, but we want to be the catch-all for all things peds.
I see. So you're really expanding the support life cycle. And actually that triggered a question like how did the name Summer Health come about?
I like this story because the truth is stranger than fiction. It actually came to me in a dream. So
Oh,
I had the idea for business, and I think we were calling it was like Project Text a Doctor. There wasn't a name behind it. And we were at an impasse moment. I think we'd raised some money, and I had to set up a C corp and a bank account. So my lawyer goes, okay, well, you need a name for this company. And I said, okay, give me a couple days and I will come back with it. And I made lists and lists of names, and I thought about it and I brainstormed. Nothing really clicked. And then I fell asleep. I remember it was a Thursday night. I fell asleep, and the name Summer Health came to me. And at 3:00 in the morning, I went to one of the domain registers, I don't know, GoDaddy or Namecheap or something, and I checked, and it was summerhealth.com was available. And I bought it. I bought it at 3:00 in the morning. Bought it, and I went back to sleep. And I remember I woke up the next morning and I looked groggily at my phone and I thought, did that really happen? And I checked, and the receipt was there, and I had bought it. And I said, okay, that's the name. But what it actually means, I mean, I love the name Summer Health because summer is this moment in time where you feel good, you feel happy. It connotes lots of sunny and positive things. In many ways, your childhood is kind of the summer of your life. It's a really
Mhm.
wonderful, warm, explorative time. And so we want to evoke that feeling when you sign up for the platform. But we also want to remind you that the person using Summer Health is on average, a 36-year-old woman. It's
Yeah.
not a kid. Like, yes, we do pediatric care, but we serve adults. And so we needed a name that was sophisticated enough that an adult would say, yes, I trust this thing.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And that makes so much sense because, we think about our summers and it also makes sense as you're expanding to serving adolescents tied to their summers. I don't know what you're going to be doing with the name.
We're keeping it, so we're
Okay.
still Summer Help.
Got it. Got it. And then is Caraway going to shift under and potentially that name change or a
We've
TV?
we've actually deprecated the Caraway name and brand, so everything
Yeah.
is now consolidated under Summer Help.
Got it. Got it. Okay. I see. So now serving, 0 to 5 adolescents.
Yeah, we do 0 to 18.
Yeah. 0 to
And
18. Yes.
we've got lots of offerings for families. So I'm
Wow.
encouraging everybody to come use us.
I love that. How are you finding marketing efforts in terms of before you were reaching parents who are serving the younger, 0 to 5, and now you're serving the whole family? Is the thinking that you're extending the life cycle of the customer to existing customers, or are you trying to reach new customers? And I guess I'm wondering how you're thinking about that in terms of entry points and then lengthening.
Yes, and is the
Okay.
answer to that
Yes,
question.
yes.
So yeah, I mean, we do want to extend the lifespan of the existing customer. We don't want people to age out. We haven't been around long enough for the 2-year-old babies who signed up with us initially to be so old that they're totally aged out. But
Yeah.
we know kids grow up. I now have a 6-year-old. I see it happen in my own
Mhm.
house. And we think a lot about that. But from a customer acquisition perspective, what we find is that we're a pretty marketing led business, and so we're not a product. It's product led growth. It's more marketing led growth. Parents talk to other parents and are happy to recommend products. It's part of the reason we went into all 50 states at the start. It's part of the reason that because you've got friends in other locations who you're going to recommend this to, as we have a really nice word of mouth engine where parents are telling their friends about us. And maybe your friend has a 13-year-old kid and now we have something for them. But by and large, I mean, we grow via marketing. We've got robust marketing channels, but marketing is really hard in 2025.
Yeah.
The traditional digital channels are saturated. People, I think, there's subscription fatigue is real, and there's a lot that people don't necessarily want to sign up for. And so we've tried to buck that trend in a lot of different ways.
Curious what those ways are, because we've certainly seen the exhaustion from paid, increasing costs, losing efficiencies. What we're seeing is also having to do more, right? You're building up your organic channels, you're building up your owned media, you're building up partnerships. And so having to do more in addition to paid, even if that historically, used to be 70 to 80% of your growth engine. And so I'm curious how Summer Health is approaching how 2025 has been, especially as now you've expanded your offerings in a pretty significant way.
So the short answer is we too have not found that you can just throw a lot of money in the marketing engine and it's going to work. So we
Yeah.
take a much more integrative approach. I mean, we have lots and lots of content. We have a blog that we have, I bet it's close to 100,000 visitors every month who are looking for more information about their kids. We've got social media accounts, Instagram, TikTok, and we're forever getting content and information out there. We have tried, I would say, more off the beaten path things, more in-person events and
Oh,
activations that way. We've tested having people with flyers at parks for kids.
oh,
We've
wow.
tested distribution.
Wow.
We've tested distribution through childcare and daycare
Okay.
facilities.
Okay.
So we've tried a lot, and honestly, people always say, like, what's the silver bullet? What's the best channel that works? I'm like a fruit salad approach kind of person. I think you need it all. Like, I think everything kind of feeds onto each itself.
Agreed. Agreed. I'm curious. So, if you are seeing one or two channels like really stand out in terms of performance, I agree. They all lift and support
Yeah.
each other and feed into one another.
The
But I'm
cop out
curious.
answer is it's like traditional paid
It's traditional.
digital.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't tested a lot in out of home.
Okay.
We've done some mailers and some door hangers, and they perform okay. They're
Yeah.
not great, but I do really think the flywheel kind of feeds into itself.
Yes. 100%. All right. Well, maybe kind of just bringing back to more of a personal note before we talk about like what's next. I mean, you've been sharing some of that. I'm curious if you have had any insight or just any thoughts around childhood influences into what your career path is now.
When I was in first grade, we had career day, and the moms and dads came to school and they talked about their career. And at the end of the day, each of us had to go around and say what we wanted to do. People run around and they would say, I want to be a fireman, or I want to be a ballerina or something. And I got up and I said, I want to be the CEO of the Coca-Cola company. I don't even drink soda. I don't know what possessed me to say that. But I remember my first grade teacher, whose name was also Ellen, called my parents and said, you should be aware that this is what your daughter said. And I think we had a lot of conversations about what the career journeys were. And I was just steadfast in that I wanted to be the CEO of the Coca-Cola company. What exactly that meant, or like what I thought by it meant at that time, and what has really shaped me throughout the course of my life, is I knew that I wanted to run in whatever capacity, maybe that's CEO, maybe it's something else, but run an iconic American institution, run a business that really meaningfully changes the trajectory of people's lives.
Yeah.
And I also knew that I was not going, especially as I got older and as I started to see the world and how it existed, that I was not comfortable with the status quo. So
Mm,
being somebody who changes the arc of the universe versus somebody who continues to build the arc of the universe and on its existing trajectory was something that I always knew was my path.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was not linear. And it's still not linear. I mean,
Absolutely.
I still don't know where the end is going to take me and if the means will justify it. But um, I have always veered toward working with and for people and working with and for companies that are changing the trajectory of the world.
Yeah. I'm amazed that at the age of 6 you knew you were going to be a CEO.
Ask my parents how they feel about that.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Well, so you shared a bit more about what is happening now in summer health and what's happening next. Are there any other like big visions or next chapters that we haven't discussed yet?
The only big vision that I'll share is there's obviously a lot that's changing right now in healthcare in this country. We're in a real moment of flux. And more so than ever, I think the spotlight has been off of kids because I'm very sad to say this, but people do not care about kids' health. Kids are generally healthy, which is important, but people don't seem to care. And I do think that we are at a very critical moment in this country's history around kids' health. And it could veer much, much worse. And so I just want to say like Summer Health will be here to pick up those pieces and to help support families where they need. But I really deeply hope that child's health is put in the zeitgeist and is focused on because unhealthy kids turn into unhealthy adults. And we've got the sickest population in the world. So I would just really like I beat this drum every day and it is obviously intense, but I deeply hope that we as a country can put some spotlight and some resources behind kids' health because it's so needed.
And I got goosebumps when you shared that unhealthy kids turn into unhealthy adults. I mean, this is what I'm thinking about when I'm raising my kids from a health and wellness standpoint, from a mental health, from a social health standpoint. And these are the things that we're thinking about, you know, when we look at his schools, we look at his community, what he eats, and how much he loves sugar. Unfortunately, it's like these are the things that come up.
Mine too. Mine too. My kids eat tons of sugar.
Oh my God. And then I try to get the better for you products and, you know, we're just paying more and we tell ourselves, is it really better for you? And so we try to explore these options, but, you know, here we are.
Oh, it's so true.
I love that. Well, we're going to wrap it up on that note. I'm so excited to share this conversation with our community and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Destiny.